What is going on, guys? It is Trifecta J here, and we've reached the halfway point of Season 2 of the Mount Pleasant Dynasty, and this upcoming week we will be taking on Texas State. But before we get to that, we're going to have a mid-season update and a recruiting board update on the whole thing. So far on the season, we started out 0-4 with only 2 real close games, and then followed that up with back-to-back wins against Georgia State in overtime and ULM in last week's game. Both of those teams are now 1-4, so not the most talented. And now looking at the top 10, Florida State, Miami, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame are your top 5. Florida State and Miami will actually be playing each other this week, so that should be one of the better matchups on the season. Alabama is at number 19 with Ohio State at 20, and TCU rounds out the top 25. The Heisman poll, Leonard Fournette is in first place with Shane Buechele in second. Nick Chubb, Bo Scarborough, and David Williams round out that list. A look at the top home win streak so far in this series. Kyle Field has a 9, along with UCLA has a 9 win streak. Like I said though, 5-0 Florida State will be taking on number 2 and also undefeated Miami. Miami is one of the best pass offenses, and that should be a very good, enjoyable game. A look at our stats so far this year. Jonathan Gibbs completing 68% of his passes, been sacked 11 times so far this year. 4 yards per carry for Elton Huff, 3 touchdowns, along with 3 touchdowns for Jonathan Gibbs. This year though, Elton Huff definitely struggled with fumbles, something he did not do at all last year, and already has 3 halfway through this year. By far the leading receiver in this team is Allen Harrison, 35 catches for 448 yards. However, a lot of that did come against Troy, and so 8 drops on the season also for Allen Harrison, but a lot of that does come down to his just massive amount of targets. 9 tackles for loss for John Paul Cutler. He has definitely become one of our best run defenders, something I wasn't really expecting coming into the year, and it's great to see him playing that well. We've forced, I believe that was 6 fumbles and only recovered 1. A look at the Sun Belt, as the leader in passing yards is Jonathan Gibbs, but he's also played more games than anyone else in the conference. He is towards the bottom in interceptions, but only 6 is the most. Per game, he is averaging the 2nd most, and is by far the best completion percentage in the conference, and 2nd worst in terms of sacks taken. So now we look at the rushing. Eddie Rose is really dominating that with 5.5 yards per carry. He's the leader of that New Mexico State team, by far their best player. Brandon Silvers has 4 rushing touchdowns. I believe a number of those did come against us though. Larry Rose, like I said though, 110.5 yards. Not a lot of 20-yard runs this year from our team, a few here and there. Jonathan Gibbs has 2 fumbles, and then also by far the leading receiver in the Sun Belt is Allen Harrison with over 100 yards, almost more than anyone else. However, he only has the 1 touchdown and is 2nd in yards per game behind Kendall Sanders of Arkansas State, who will be seeing in week 8. On defense, you have a Texas State player in first place, a Troy player leading in sacks, with Xavier Burns being in 3rd place with 3 sacks. 3 interceptions for Markel Reyes is tied for best in the conference, and then only 5 touchdowns as a conference total. Now we'll look at the overall leader in stats, as actually the leader in completions in the country is Jonathan Gibbs. Jake Browning is tops in passing yards. Josh Rosen is top in touchdowns. And then Colorado's quarterback leads in interceptions. Bo Scarborough, by far the leading rusher in the country by nearly 200 yards of a lead. He, although doesn't have a ton of touchdowns, a BYU receiver is tops in receiving yards, but 2nd in receptions, and I believe that's like 10th in receiving yards is Allen Harrison, although just the 1 touchdown, I should say. Tackles for loss, Shameik Blackshear already is 18 halfway through this year. Lion King of Eastern Michigan, a real player, believe me, has 15 tackles for losses and 5.5 sacks. Quite a name for a player. Myles Garrett has 15 tackles for losses, and then Shameik Blackshear has 6.5 sacks in the season. A Daniel Ekuale has 4.5. Darian Moulton has 6 interceptions. A Young has 5 interceptions. So now we're actually going to get into the recruiting portion of this episode. You can see the needs so far on this team. We have 3 seniors graduating on offense and 6 on defense. So not a whole ton of turnover coming, a good bit on defense, but not a whole ton in general. So tops on our board is running back from Pennsylvania, 5'9", 182, a guy who's looking for a lot of playing time, Chad Montgomery. He's fast, he's quick, pretty good in the open field, and has a lot of good elusiveness as well, and we're actually his only scholarship offer at the moment right now. Next up from Winder, Georgia is Josh Perry, 6'2", 228, so not the biggest linebacker, but definitely is not a small by any means. He's another guy that wants a lot of playing time. He's fast, he's strong, he can hit, he can cover a little bit and play the run, so he's very balanced and a great athlete as well, and would be a great addition to this team. However, in a strong battle along with a couple of Florida teams in FIU and Central Florida. From Mississippi, we have Jermaine Payne, 6'5", 265, a big defensive lineman, and we're in a battle with Ole Miss. He's not the biggest fit for us in terms of his interest, but he's a very developmental type of player. He's not the fastest, but he's strong and big and can play that strong side defensive end for us in our defense. And this is a battle that could be very interesting because Ole Miss, if they really dedicate resources to him, could definitely get him. So it's about locking him up before that can happen. At strong safety from Charleston, South Carolina, so in our local area, is Miles Power III. He's not the overall fastest guy, but definitely not slow. He can hit, definitely struggles somewhat with open field tackles, and is a pretty decent coverage guy. And he has a scholarship offer also from Boise State, but we have a nice big lead for him. From North Carolina, definitely a big target state for me, as I wanted to make them a pipeline once again, is Terrell Sherman. We're in a battle with UConn and UNC for him. He's strong, not the most polished player right now, definitely would be a developmental guy and maybe redshirt, although we definitely need early contributors at the defensive tackle spot. He has 4 visits scheduled, and that's definitely a very tight battle. One that's not nearly as tight of a battle is Titus Sisk, a 6'2" safety, another guy from North Carolina. We have a big lead for him. He's a guy that wants to stay close to home and play early. Can't really promise him playing early, but he will definitely stay close to home. He's another safety who can hit. However, he's not nearly as good as Miles Power in coverage, and not the athlete he is either. He also has a scholarship offer from Old Dominion and will be visiting us in week 11. After that is Marcus Buckley, the 6'1" corner. Once again, another guy from North Carolina, but a guy that we're definitely losing the battle right now. We lost out on Nigel Johnson, another corner from North Carolina, and looking like we may lose out on Marcus Buckley. He's got some good speed, he can hit a little bit, and very good coverage ratings. However, Georgia State is very interested in him, and he seems to have the same interest in the Panthers as well. So he would be a guy that we would play in the future. From Georgia, we have 6'1" athlete Mike Pierre. He is getting interest from some top schools. However, they aren't really going quite as hard after him as we are. He wants to play early, something that we could probably promise him. He's a guy that could either play offense or defense, but I see him as a wide receiver who is great in the open field. Doesn't have that elite speed, but has very good hands and definitely really strong make-you-miss ability. After that is 5'11", 340-pound nose tackle Kevin Pollock from Louisiana. He's a guy that would probably come in and play right away. He has that size, not the tallest guy, but definitely is a load inside. He's strong, has some pretty good pass rushing moves, and we are his only scholarship offer at the moment. He's definitely a guy that I would really like to get. Now, another guy in a similar position to Jermaine Payne, he has a scholarship offer from Tennessee and Louisville, but they aren't really that interested in him. But if they decided to put those points in, they could definitely take that lead over very quickly. He's much more polished already than Jermaine Payne. He has a great pass rushing move and is already great against the run. Has a visit scheduled for week 11. That's definitely a big recruiting weekend for us. Then following up, the final guy we're putting points in is 6 foot 198 from Greenville, South Carolina, junior college corner Lionel Fox. He's not getting really any interest. He wants to go to a big time school, but not really getting that interest. He has incredible speed, top tier, the best in the class, along with great coverage ratings, and could come in and be a day one starter at corner, depending on how Markel Reyes and Leroy Red develop in the offseason. Now we'll look at the rest of the guys on the board. You have Kenny Cunningham, John Bryant, a local quarterback product who is not the strongest arm, but definitely a great athlete. Nate Anderson, a big defensive end. Defensive line was definitely a big priority for me, along with quarterback, just trying to find anyone that we can who might be a great player for us moving forward, with both Colby Lucas and Jonathan Gibbs being juniors. And at the bottom of the board, a couple of wide receivers who we've yet to scout. Right now, still no commits though, so we have the 124th ranked class. Obviously, that's not really that low because a lot of teams don't have a commitment yet. But Oklahoma, South Carolina has the number 2 recruiting class with already 8 4-stars committed. Clemson at number 7. North Carolina at number 10 with a 5-star and 2 4-stars. Georgia Tech at 18. And then Georgia State actually right now has the best recruiting class in our conference, all the way down at around 60, I believe. Ohio State only 43rd right now, but you definitely expect that to improve. But I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, please leave a like down below. Subscribe for more of the Mount Pleasant Dynasty. There's going to be a lot more coming in the upcoming weeks and months. Really getting into this series more, had a little bit of a lull period, but getting much more back into it. But like I said, I hope you did enjoy. Leave your comments down below also on our recruiting class. And what are your thoughts on the variety of players that we're targeting and really have a good lead for and the battles that we are in. I will see you for our game against Texas State. Have a great rest of your day, 'cause I'm out.